This conference will now be recorded.
A very happy morning to one and all present here. I am Unnati from BSc MSCS second year, and along with me is Salonika. Today, we will be sharing our knowledge on the topic geometry in honeycombs. We will look into the way that honeycombs are hexagonal.
Honeybees. They are fascinating creatures for a number of reasons. Their incredible work ethic and the sugary sweet syrup they produce, and their intricate social structure. But another reason is that honeybees are in fact excellent mathematicians. Scientists claim that the tiny insects can calculate angles and can even comprehend the roundness of the earth.
But there is a particular mathematical bee genius behind the most important aspect of honeybee life, the hive. Just like humans, bees need food and shelter to stay alive. The hive is not only the bees' home, but doubles as a place to store their honey. Since it is so central to survival, honeybees have to perfect the hive's architectural design.
Bees build their honeycombs always hexagonal, and not just your basic six-sided hexagon. They like perfect hexagons, meaning all six sides are of equal length.
If you examine any piece of honeycomb, you will see that it is constructed from tightly packed hexagonal or six-sided cells.
Bees, after all, could build honeycombs from rectangles or squares or triangles, but for some reason, bees choose hexagons, always hexagons. Of all the possible designs, why hexagons?
More than 2000 years ago, in 36 BC, a Roman soldier, scholar, and writer, Marcus Terentius Varro, proposed an answer which ever since has been called the honey-bee conjecture. So Varro thought there might be a deep reason for this bee behavior. Maybe a honeycomb built of hexagons can hold more honey. Maybe hexagons require less building wax. Maybe there's a hidden logic here. And the honeybee conjecture states that a regular hexagonal grid or honeycomb is the best way to divide a surface into regions of equal area with the least total perimeter. So, the criteria to consider in the building of a honeycomb is firstly, honeycombs, as we all know, store honey, and bees need a secure place for their entire colony to live. Similarly, there needs to be a place where the nectar can be stored and ripened suitably until it turns into honey. That means there is a need for some serious space efficiency.
A good solution is to build little storage units or cells, just big enough for a bee to fit into, which can also double as the containers in which nectar is stored. The bees very often own honey jars. The next thing is to decide what the little shells should be made out of. Bees don't have beaks or arms to pick up things, but they are capable of producing wax. The thing is, producing it is a lot of hard work. Bees have to consume 8 ounces of honey to produce just 1 ounce of wax.
So it takes thousands and thousands of bee hours, tens of thousands of flights across the meadow to gather nectar from flower after flower after flower. So they don't want to waste it.
Now, they need a design that allows them to store the largest possible amount of honey using the least amount of wax.
Hence, it's reasonable to suppose that back at the hive, bees want a tight, secure storage structure that is as simple to build as possible. So, how to build it?
Well, suppose we start the honeycomb with a cell like in the first picture, a totally random shape, no equal sides, just a squiggle, a short line that curves and loops in an irregular way.
But Salonika, if we start this way, what will the next cell look like? Well, we don't want big gaps between the cells. The structure should be tight, as we've discussed earlier. So the next cell will have to be made in such a way that it links to the first, like you can see in the second picture. And the third cell, once again, will have to be designed to fit the first two. Each cell would be a little different.
Yes, that's right. According to Alan Lightman, this method of constructing a honeycomb would require that the worker bees work sequentially. First, they would have to make one cell, then fit another cell to it, and then again work up another one which will fit together with the previous two.
This way, the honeybees must wait until their turn to make a unique new cell which will go along with the previously packed cells, which means that they will have to stay idle until their turn, which in turn wastes time.
But that's not the bee way. They are hard and efficient workers. For bees to assemble a honeycomb the way bees actually do it, it's simpler for each cell to be exactly the same.
Okay, that explains why honeycomb cells are same sized. Back to our first question. Why the preference for hexagons, Salonika? Is there something special about a six-sided shape?
Yes, some shapes we know right away aren't good. A honeycomb built from spears, as you can see in the picture, would have little spaces between each unit, creating gaps that would need extra wax for patching. So you can see why a honeycomb built from spears wouldn't be ideal.
So, which to choose? The triangle, the square, the pentagon. Which one is the best?
It is a mathematical truth. Lightman writes that there are only three geometrical figures with equal sides that can fit together on a flat surface without leaving gaps: equilateral triangles, squares, and hexagons.
Which means that equilateral triangles, squares, and hexagons are the only shapes that would not leave any gaps in between if aligned next to each other and packed closely. So here is where Marcus Terentius Varro made his great contribution. His conjecture proposed that a structure built from hexagons is probably a bit more compact than a structure built from squares or triangles. A hexagonal honeycomb, he thought, would have the smallest total perimeter. He couldn't prove it mathematically, but that's what he thought.
Compact, compactness matters. The more compact the structure, the less wax one needs to construct the honeycomb. Wax is expensive. As we have seen earlier, a bee must consume about 8 ounces of honey to produce a single ounce of wax.
So, 2035 years after Marcus Terentius Varro proposed his conjecture, a mathematician at the University of Michigan, Thomas Hales, solved the riddle. It turns out Varro was right. A hexagonal structure is indeed more compact. In 1999, Hales produced a mathematical proof that said so.
In conclusion, the reason behind the hexagonal shape in honeycombs can be justified as compact, as we have first seen that more honey should be held together with no gaps left in between. The hexagonal shape makes it possible by being closely packed, that is compact, as making wax is a time-consuming and a difficult process. Having to use less wax is essential, and less wax is used in constructing hexagons when compared to the other shapes.
More storage. Leaving no gaps and constructing means making more room, which is ideal and possible by hexagons. And working together. As we've seen in the first scenario of constructing the honeycomb, the squiggle plan leaves a lot of bees idle due to the fact that each new cell is a different shape. It's not identical. And hexagons being identical make sure that all the bees work and get it done together. So, as the ancient Greeks suspected, as Varro claimed, as bee lovers have always thought, as Charles Darwin himself once wrote, the honeycomb is a masterpiece of engineering. It is absolutely perfect in economizing labor and wax. Thank you. We now hand over the
Thank
session
you.
to Namreen and Maunya from electronics to continue further.
This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Spark conference. First, let me introduce myself. I am Monia from BSc MECS second year, and I would like to introduce my team member Namreen. Today, we both are here to give a presentation about Fibonacci sequence in nature. Let me start by giving you some background information about Fibonacci sequence. Next. What is Fibonacci sequence? Fibonacci sequence can be found in nature. It follows a unique integer sequence. We can see different types of patterns in our daily life aspects, like human hair, flowers, animals, petals, etc. Next. How are these Fibonacci numbers obtained? The Fibonacci sequence is one of the most famous formulas in mathematics. Each number in the sequence is the sum of the two previous numbers. So, the sequence goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on. The mathematical equation describing it is f of n equals to f of n minus 1 plus f of n minus 2. Next. History of Fibonacci sequence. The exact origin of the sequence is unknown. Later, it was introduced to Arthur Fibonacci. He started research with the breeding patterns of rabbits. He found that rabbit generations are in accordance with the Fibonacci numbers. After that, the Fibonacci sequence was discovered in flowers, plants, fruits, etc. Next, pine cones. Take a pine cone and look at it from the bottom and count the number of spirals going from the center of the cone to the outside edge. These are the two directions of the pine cones. In first picture, we can see 8 clockwise direction spirals. In last picture, we can see 13 anti-clockwise direction spirals. Next, flower. The outer ring of this flower illustrates the Fibonacci sequence. Diases with 13, 21, 34, 55, and 89 petals are common, and the garden flowers usually have 34 petals. All these numbers are fib numbers. Next, seashells. Seashells are showcasing of spirals. Suppose we start with a circle winding around a spiral. The circle shape changes periodically, and it is a rectangular spiral. It indicates the Fibonacci sequence with a circle winding like 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Next part of this session is handed over to Namreen.
Good morning, everyone. Now, other part of this Spark session will be continued by me. My name is Sheikh Namreen from BSc 2. Now, we will study about the Fibonacci sequence found in pineapples and banana. We'll start with the fruits. So, pineapple scales have Fibonacci spirals in sets of 8, 13, 21. Pineapples grow in numerical sequence of 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, and so on. So you can see the first pineapple picture. In second picture, you can see the 5 parallel rows scales spiraling gradually. In third picture, this is the 8 parallel rows of scales spiraling at a medium slope. Now in the fourth picture, you can see 13 parallel rows of scales spiraling spiraling steeply. It means sharply or rising, falling sharply. Rising sharply or falling sharply. Now we will see the Fibonacci sequence in banana. As you can see, a banana has 3 sections, which is a Fibonacci number. Banana have 3 or 5 flat slides. Another pattern in nature. This is another pattern in nature that mimics the Fibonacci sequence. Is the inside of a fruit. There are a specific number of sections inside a fruit. Coincidentally, the number of sections inside a fruit are Fibonacci sequence. For example, you can see the inside of a banana is divided up into 3 sections, and this 3 is a Fibonacci sequence. Now, we will discuss Fibonacci sequence in cone flowers. This is a cone flower. The number of spirals in the flower ahead going clockwise and anti-clockwise are consecutive Fibonacci numbers. As you can see in the first picture, the you can see in the closely packed Fibonacci spirals of seeds with the number of clockwise and anti-clockwise direction spirals at a point on the seed head. Coneflower has 13 spirals in one direction and 21 in the other direction as shown in the picture. Now we will discuss Fibonacci sequence in vegetables. Broccoli and cauliflower are the two main vegetables that shows the Fibonacci sequence in the spiring of the florets. As you can see, this cauliflower, this uh, red color lines are going in clockwise direction, whereas the blue color lines are going in the anti-clockwise direction. This portrays the Fibonacci sequence in the cabbage. Now, we will see the Fibonacci sequence in broccoli. such as cauliflower, broccoli has same sequence. As you can see, the black colored numbers, which are going in anti-clockwise direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on till 13, are the anti-clockwise direction of the anti-clockwise direction of the Fibonacci numbers. As you can see, the red color numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, and so on. This is the clockwise direction of clockwise direction Fibonacci sequence in the broccoli. Finally, I conclude as many things in nature and our civilization can be described using number, patterns, and such. Fibonacci sequence happen to describe some of the nature's most seemingly complex and intricate designs. Mathematics is everywhere in this universe. We seldom note it. We enjoy nature uh, and we can, if we are interested, we go deep about what mathematical ideas is in it. Mathematics express itself everywhere in almost every facet of life and nature all around us. Now, thank you, thank you everyone.
Thank you.